Hey everyone, it's the Angry Honey Badger here, and it is time to take a look at another build video. We're going to be playing as Ryze today in the mid lane. Let's go ahead and talk about, well, everything today we're going to need to know about Ryze. We're going to talk about abilities, we're going to go ahead and talk about runes and masteries and items you're going to build, and some strategy behind some of all of this. When it all comes together, it's magical. And so go ahead and start off early. At level 1, start with that Sapphire Crystal and Health Pot. It's going to help you out, and we're going to be building into that something right away to start getting stacks on our Tier of the Goddess, and it helps us out with early damage too. So speaking of early damage, we're going to get into a little bit of a fight at level 2 and 3. Vi is going to come in after this Lux flashes, then she's going to charge in. I'm going to go ahead and flash forward to make sure she doesn't get away and pick up a kill, so that will be helpful. First Blood was already given away as our Renekton fed it away in top, but that's okay. This will help me get ahead a little bit, and that was just a good gank from Vi. So we're going to go ahead and work off of that. Let's go ahead and talk about our abilities and everything you need to know there. Let's start out with our passive, which is our Arcane Mastery. When Ryze casts a spell, all other spells are reduced their cooldown by 1 second. So as you cast more spells, other ones will get a cooldown reduction. Very cool stuff, very helpful, and it's really good. It's a great passive, actually. And then as for our next, at level 1, we put a point into our Q ability, which is our Overload. And Overload passively is going to give Ryze cooldown reduction up to 10% once it's fully maxed out. And then also, when activated, Ryze throws a charge of pure energy at the enemy unit, dealing magic damage. It also scales from 40% of his ability power and 6.5% of his maximum mana. And this is a trend we need to talk about with Ryze. He scales from not only magic damage or AP from items, but he scales from maximum mana. And so as you build more, you get more damage. And that's why we started off with that Sapphire Crystal, and that's why we are now having this Tier of the Goddess, because we're going to be putting charges on it as we use abilities to get more damage overall. So that's what we're working on right now. So the build consists of a lot of items that have lots of mana built into them, and that will help us out as the game continues. So let's go from there. So that's our Q ability. We're going to max it out first. Now next is our W, which is our Rune Prison. What happens is you trap an enemy unit, preventing them from moving for a short duration. It scales as you put points into it. It's also going to deal ability power, 60% and as magic damage, and then 4.5% of Ryze's maximum mana. So once again, more mana on this one will make it hurt more. So we're working with that still. We're going to max this out second, and yeah, that's what we're doing with that. Then at level 3, put a point into your E ability, which is your Spell Flux, which unleashes a bouncing orb. It bounces up to 5 times. As it hits, it will deal magic damage, and it scales a little bit from mana too. And we're also going to do, it knocks down, I believe, the enemy's magic resist too. We're going to get into a fight here. I have no mana at this point, though, and I want to secure this kill, so I'm actually going to flash and just standard attack her one more time. That Ignite I don't think was going to quite finish her off. It would have been really close, but I think she would have got away with about 10 health. So just secured the kill. Because I probably would have died to Diana anyways since I was tanking that tower. And so that'll just help me still get ahead. Now at this point in the game, we have our Tier of the Goddess, which is getting those stacks as we spam abilities in lane. And then we also have Catalyst the Protector, which is going to give us health and more mana, so that helps us there. And then as we hit levels, we're going to get mana and health returned to us, so that's really, really good. We have a couple pots, our boots, and a couple wards, I think, so we have some security in lane, although we're going to die a few times because it's going to happen. But we'll continue on. That's your Spell Flux. We just talked about his E ability. You're going to max this out last. And then finally, oh, actually here. I'm going to dodge Diana's thing there just because unfun. But unfortunately, I get sucked in, and then she has a red buff, and I'm not going anywhere at this point. So I'm going to turn around and fight as Vi shows up. I will, though, pick up an assist on the Lux, or Diana, I mean, not Lux. Lux is going to get away. And an assist is helpful at least, so I got something out of it. And then finally, at level 6, you have your Desperate Power, and when you activate it, Ryze becomes supercharged for a short duration, gaining Spell Vamp, causing his spells to deal 50% AoE damage and granting him 80 movement speed. So for a very short duration, you basically spam all your abilities at people, and it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to be fun. It's going to deal a lot of damage. You can take on whole teams. We'll get to see this in a little bit, pretty much. Lux is going to get chased by Blitzcrank. I'm going to Prisoner and throw a Q, and that's pretty much going to secure the kill. And pretty easy stuff. We have decent damage right now too. We also do have a Blasting Wand from the previous trip back to base. We will be pairing this Blasting Wand with a Catalyst that we have already in our inventory, and when we put these two together, it makes a beautiful Rod of Ages. Very good item. We'll get that shortly so it can start scaling, help us out with health, mana, and ability power. Those are the 3 best things on Ryze, and we're going to go ahead and keep doing things like that as the game goes on. We're going to head towards bottom lane. We're going to get into a fight in just a second. I think this is pretty much half the team. And we're going to move in after Blitz misses that, whatever. And we're going to just put a prison on this Diana, which will catch her out first. And then we're going to pick up an assist on her. Tristana's going to jump away, I believe. And we're going to flash after her. We're going to be able to put a prison on her, though, right as she enters this bush. Blitz is going to ward it. And then we're going to finish her off and get a kill. And then Soraka's not getting away. So she's going to die there, too. So good kill from the team. Good teamwork to move in there and kind of do almost a full team gank. And we're going to move on from here. So those were all of our abilities. Now, let's go ahead and talk about them. Because of your passive giving you this cooldown reduction as you use abilities, you want to use them in a decent order that will help you with cooldown reduction on them. So, if you want to start with, let's just say, your prison, and then throw a Q, and then throw your spell flux, and then throw a Q, at that point it'll be on cooldown because your Q has a really short cooldown, and basically just as you use spells, it's great. We're going to kill Diana here because she deserves to die. That's how I justified that kill. Or you can start with your Q and then prison and then Q and then you can E and then you can Q and then, yeah, lots of dying. So just remember, everything's getting cooled down as you use other abilities. So it's just really smart to be aware of this so you don't use your abilities and look down and be like, oh, they're already off cooldown, because that's just how that works. You also don't need to worry about using his ultimate too often in lane, because by the time you get through about 1 minion wave and then another one shows up, you pretty much have your ultimate off of cooldown just because you spammed abilities and you knocked seconds off of its cooldown from using all those abilities because of the passive. So just remember that when you're playing as Ryze. You always have things coming up quicker than you might think, and it's just very helpful. It's a really, really fun passive. Now, that last time we were back at base, we did finish off that Rod of Ages, and we picked up a little bit of magic resist because I was mostly taking magic damage from Diana and Lux on the enemy team. If you're having more problems with a lot of physical damage and needed to rush some armor, you could pick up one of the next items we're going to get to in a second, and we'll talk about that coming up. And we'll go ahead, though, now and transition into talking about Masteries. On Ryze, there's a special way to do his Masteries. You could do full 21-9-0 if you want to do something like that. That's fine. But if you want to go with a 9-0-21, you can get some of the offense, which helps with some damage, and then you can go into the utility tree and pick up a lot of the things that help him out, like some mana per level, and then also some spell vamp, and some like reduces cooldowns of summoner spells, and some bonus movement speed, and just overall cooldown reduction. Just all these things kind of are nice. They all pair up really well with Ryze, since he doesn't necessarily need straight ability power. So that's kind of how that works with him. We've been getting to some, fights going on right now, and picked up, I think, 1 kill a second ago. And I think we're going to pick up another kill with our E. It's going to bounce off of Soraka in a second, and it's going to pick up a kill on her. So we're going to get one there to become unstoppable. And we're going to keep pushing the lane, because that's what we should do. So once again, that Masteries is a 9-0-21. You're basically going to fill out the middle of the utility tree. It's pretty good on Ryze. The spell vamp also is nice. As much as it's only a little bit, it's 3%. It's actually decent while you are feeding that Tear of the Goddess. You are going to get some health back as you're spamming abilities, so it's just a little bit of nice sustain early on in the game. It's also good late too, but it's just nice to have, and that's what we're working with. Well, that last trip back to base, like I said, we're taking some ability power damage, so magic damage, and we finished off that little bit of magic resist we had into a cowl, and that's going to help us out for now. We also finished off our magic penetration boots. We have those, and that blasting one at this point that we have sitting in our inventory will be pairing up with our Tear, and that Tear and that blasting one will be making a, Seraph's Embrace when it's fully stacked is what it will be, but it'll be the staff in the meantime once we finish that off, because I don't think that Tear is done stacking at this moment. But that's what we're working on next. And like I said, if we're having problems with physical damage, we'd be probably building a Glacial Shroud, which we'll get to in a little bit. Here I'm going to try to trap their team as our team's coming up. I'm going to find them a little bit early and need to back off, though. And then I find them on this side and need to run away on the other side. They are going to chase after me, luckily. I'm going to go and be right next to my team And as Diana jumps to me, we will be able to pick up an assist on her, and then Soraka is going to get yoinked, and I'll standard attack her for the kill. And just some nice quick kills there helping us out as we push down the mid turret and continue. So, as for runes with Ryze, there's a few different ways to do this now as well, just kind of personal preference. As for your marks, you're probably just going to want the magic penetration ones, that's pretty standard. And then as for your seals, you can do a few different ones. If you want armor ones, depending on who you're going up against is good. If you have just mana regen ones, those are okay too, but you really don't need them since you're going to have so much mana. And then the ones that would be great if you happen to have them would be the seals of scaling mana, so you get more mana as the game goes on, and that's going to help you out with a lot of damage. So if you can get those are great. As for your glyphs, you can do magic resist ones. I like to do AP per level one, so I do get some scaling AP because that does help with his abilities. And then finally for your quintessences, you can do movement speed or AP as well. Here we're going to do a lot of damage to Tristana, but she's going to get some big beefy heals from Soraka, and I'm going to get really low, so I'm going to have to get away. Luckily, we're going to make some clutch plays in a second as me and Hoyt work together. We're going to go ahead and stop Tryndamere as he's tanking that tower, and we're going to dodge Lux there and move around. We're going to finally deal some damage to her and get her killed quick as Hoyt finishes off Trin, I finish off Lux, and we're both going to be able to escape. And just some good back and forth there, being aware of what's happening around us. So, fun. Now we get to go buy more items. So we're going to actually finish off that Glacial Shroud at this point. We did have a little bit of armor as that fight started because we did have we just had some armor from that chain vest. And so we have the Glacial Shroud, which the Glacial Shroud is very nice. It's going to give us 45 armor, 300 mana, and 10% cooldown reduction. We will be building the Glacial Shroud into a Frozen Heart in a little bit, but until then, I'm going to try to help my team out as we're next and getting chased. We're going to lock down the team and use the ultimate, all the AoE, pick up a quick double kill. We're going to finish off Soraka here too for the triple, and then we're just going to murder Tristana as Blitzcrank tries to come up here and KS this. I have no idea why, but we'll pick up a quick quadra, and that's what just Ryze really does. Once he gets these items, he just lots of damage, especially with that ultimate. You can blow teams up really fast, a few of them, and then finish people off as your abilities come off cooldown rather quick because of the passive. So if Ryze gets ahead early, he's kind of hard to shut down because he gets these beefy items as we finished off the Frozen Heart because they build really well with his kit. So now we have tons of armor. And then another thing is even if you don't get ahead, you can win games incredibly late because the full build works really, really well even if the other team's ahead. So you'll actually catch up. I've won games with Ryze an hour into them because we fell super far behind early, but you get your items and then they can't do as much because right now I have almost like 200 armor as an carry in the middle. So just, you know, lots of damage there. And we also have our staff, which is giving us bonus ability power too from the mana that we have, and since we have lots of it, it's giving us a handful there too. So we're going to go ahead and move in and start finishing up this game. That cowl can be built into 2 items. You can either do a Banshee's Veil, but I personally like the Spirit Visage because as you use your ultimate, you are going to get even more bonus healing happening. And that's just really awesome. You can tank those fights as you deal all that AoE damage. And then as for your very last item, there's a couple ways you could go. You could do a Void Staff if they're stacking magic resist. You could do a Deathcap just for tons of damage. You could do a Guardian Angel because that's pretty standard. There's really a lot of items you can really finish with, but those are just some ones that you could consider doing. We're going to go ahead and finish this game out though. So if you have any questions, you can put them down in the comments below because that's where you put them. But other than that, I'll just see all of you in the next build video. Here we're going to get into a little bit of a fight, obviously, because we got Baron they didn't know about it, and that was them probably coming to check on it. So I'm just going to pick up that quick double kill and get taunted by Ahri because she's a jerk. Standard jerk stuff by Ahri.